this is the most off the cuff one because normally me and Yo chat for at least 5 minutes to like
Yeah,
to lead
that's
into.
that's what I was asking you guys. I was like, should I join now, or are you guys having a little intro? This
No, we
could be the
haven't. We
intro
just do that
instead.
after. Yeah, this can be the intro exactly. Okay, sweet. Well, like, thanks for joining, Lewis. It's been as I said, it's just been a bit of a clusterfuck today. Also, really helpfully got 7% battery left on my laptop, so I'm just waiting for Lizzie to finish sending some emails and everything else to me. Oh, the worst podcast host in the world. Right, cool. So, I guess to set the scene, before we get into like backgrounds and all that stuff, Yo and I have spoke before about with people on here and also just in general about the various different ways that people like get into marketing and grow stuff. And we wanted to just bring on some people that had, in our opinion, like interesting routes in. I think you definitely have an
Yeah,
interesting route in. And just like chat about that and chat about how thoughts about how kind of difficult it is to maybe or not difficult to break into. Just something that's kind of a bit inspirational for anyone out there that they're just thinking like, what am I going to do with my life? And then the obvious answer is just get a job in marketing. It's easy.
hopefully.
Yeah. So,
Yeah,
so to set the scene, we obviously met each other at Bump, which
yeah,
was quite a while ago now, like I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, maybe.
sounds right.
Um, and you were there before me, and I know you did a lot of interesting stuff before that and after that. So maybe let's start with if you want to introduce yourself and your like a potted career history and what you're doing now, and then we can dig into all that good stuff.
Yeah, sure, of course. Yeah, so hi everyone. My name is Lewis, 24 years old, based in and around London. Just recently left a startup called Hago, which is like a sort of a virtual travel company. After it unfortunately shut down, I actually started there as an SDR in sales, and ended up as a growth hacker, which is quite a weird, like little switch. But yeah, so over the last 4 or 5 months since I left Hago, I've been working on a new project of my own, which is called Our Guilty Pleasures, which is an e-commerce company that sells sex toys. That's quite out there as well. So yeah, sort of been
Nice.
all over the shop, and sort of seeing what's next. There's some exciting times ahead.
Love it. I love it. We'll get onto that. We'll get onto that stuff. So the interesting part, like when we spoke, when we first met, we were chatting about like things that you did back in school and stuff. And I know you
Yeah,
did a bit of kind of drop shipping type vibe back then, right? Was that kind
yes,
of the how you? I guess how did you get into that, and was that your first insight into
Yeah.
kind of marketing?
yeah. To be fair, I guess you could say I've been quite entrepreneurial since I've been small. I think my mum told me a funny story like it's a couple of weeks ago, and she was like, when you were around 7 or 8 years old, you're on the beach in Bournemouth. And she said that I was sort of paying kids sweets in order to help me build like the biggest sandcastle. So it's always sort of been in my spirits a little bit. And yeah, lucky enough to go to boarding school, and that there obviously being away from home, not being able to get a job, sort of made me become a bit creative on sort of how I can make money from at school. Because obviously I wasn't able to go down into local town and work at a cafe or a pub or something like that, except in the holidays. So yeah, I used to sell sweets. I used to sell anything I get my hands on to all the students in school. And then actually started, obviously, how I know Johan as well from Depop. Started selling a lot of clothes from streetwear, like brands like Supreme, and Palace, etc., and shoes, to all the way to like vintage clothes. And I did that for about 2 years, and I did quite well. I managed to gain around 40,000 followers or so, and
Oh,
sold
wow.
sold probably 1,000 pieces, or more, which was at school, which is great. They used to hate me because I used to have shipments come in from like China, or not from China, from the States, of like vintage clothes in big bulk, and I used like
Wow.
a whole room up with like a studio to try and take photos and then have to post them. So yeah, he used to hate me there about that. And then sort of towards my last year of school, I did something called Amazon FBA. And people who don't know what Amazon FBA is, basically you send a product to Amazon, you can private label it, or you can use a branded product depending on the terms they have. And then you sell those products through Amazon. I sold it only in the UK, but you can sell it worldwide, and they basically do all the fulfillment. And so the great thing about that for me was I could send a whole load of units from China through like Alibaba, send them all the way over to the warehouse and Amazon, and then they would sort out all the fulfilling for me. So there wasn't anything for me to do. I didn't even touch the product once, except for a few samples I got sent over. So yeah, that was fun. Learned a lot there too. But yeah, one thing I did mess up on was obviously my grades and my A levels. Um, so, but it does prove that there are lots of other ways you can sort of get into marketing, which I guess we can move on to in a bit. Because yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely didn't do well in those, but I did well in some other things, which is interesting.
That's so cool. I thought that it's so cool, and nowadays I feel like you probably were quite early in the Amazon FBA thing, because now all I see on my YouTube ads is like guys trying to sell me Amazon FBA courses, and
Yeah,
even in
yeah.
2023. But how did you? First of all, what was your name? Was it on Depop that you were selling, or other platforms? What was your name of your shop on Depop? I'm just curious because I remember that time.
Oh yeah, it's called Looster 1704. Very fitting when I was 17. But yeah. So it was on that. I think I've lost half my followers now because I've been inactive.
Yeah.
But yeah, like at the time it was thriving, and I used to remember every Thursdays a Supreme drop would happen. You'd have like some software and try and like purchase as many things as you can.
That's so interesting. How did you get into that?
It was a really fun time.
How did you discover Depop, for example?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. I think there was actually someone at my school who was also selling clothes, and I think it was quite new at the time. Depop. I think when I first joined, it's probably been around for a while, but it was just getting going. And again, I was sort of looking for a way to make money at school, and I guess that was just a good way. And started selling probably an old pair of trainers, and then going, oh my god, someone actually bought it, and then sort of getting more and more interested as sort of time goes on.
That was the Depop thing that you guys lent into, right? Yeah, it was like become an entrepreneur from your bedroom.
Yeah. At the time, because I joined in 2018, so you probably started a bit before that. And
yes, I think so. 2017.
Then we started to do ads quite aggressively on Snapchat and stuff at that time. But yeah, that's cool. It just comes down to like the curiosity that you had to find ways to make money when you were that age, and and those were some of the options that you had, and through doing them, which luckily worked, you also gained some valuable skills, in terms of like flipping something or learning Amazon FBA. Like, this is not you. It's funny when I hear you say, because you say like, not like it's easy, like, but like,
No,
it was there, and I kind of like took it, and I did it and stuff, but it's not something that many people would find the time and learn and actually try to like master. So
yeah, there's a lot of stuff, and like I say, it wasn't easy. It took me sort of like 5 or 6 months to launch one product, and there's everything from choosing a product, getting a logo, attaching it, like getting samples, like looking at like doing competitor analysis and working out how you can make yours better, and then having to do product photography with like make sure your product's looking the best out of all the competitors, because there's so many competitors on Amazon, and even then it wasn't saturated, but it was still saturated. There was probably 50 sellers all selling the same thing as me. And then there's obviously they got like product listing optimization, which kind of ties in with SEO and keywords and stuff. And I even end up playing around with some Facebook ads. So that sort of introduced me into Facebook ads, and Amazon have their own ads as well, which you can do keywords for, but like a bit like Google ads. And it was great. And it took me, and you have to like spike the algorithm. And this was so much fun, because I remember I had to get like 20 or 30 family and friends all to buy my product within like a 30-minute zone. I'm not sure if it's still the same, but I did it in like basically a 30-minute window. I got like 30 sales. And I remember like rechecking my laptop about sort of 2 or 3 hours after those 30 sales sort of went through. And it was at like 60 sales. And I checked later at night, it was like 80 sales. And I ended up selling out all my stock, had like 500 units in about 4.5 days. And I sold about 500 units. And I remember I could not, I don't know if I was lucky or just like it was the right timing for the product I did, but yeah, it was so exciting. I'm not really sure why I didn't keep carrying on with
it. School got in the way, unfortunately. It's always the way, isn't
it? Do you remember any other acts or things that you were doing on Amazon or Depop at the time to kind of get in front of people's eyes and get some sales?
Yeah, so the good thing with Amazon is there's so many buyers on there already. So once you've like spiked the algorithm and you're like high in the rankings, you make so many organic sales, which is everyone's dream, I guess, without having really to spend money on marketing. And there was a time because my product was very seasonal. I used Facebook ads to try and get rid of them towards Christmas, because it was basically like a big inflatable airbag, which you sit on outside. So it's great during summer, and then during winter when no one goes outside in the UK, it just didn't sell. So it actually turned into a bit of a pain, and I had to try and flog them off really cheap in the end. But other than that, not really. It was mainly just like the launch, which was super imperative for that, and then also some of the Facebook ads helped for sure.
Yeah, that's cool. And how did you learn Facebook ads the first time around? Do you remember?
I think I just used a YouTube video, and that was same with all the Amazon and stuff as well. Like it was all YouTube, and like I know what you mean. You know, you were saying like there's so many people trying to sell courses these days, and there is, and it's like in fact it's I think it surrounds every young person on Instagram and TikTok and that stuff, and I don't like it, and I have to try and get away from it because it shows you how easy it is to drop ship or how easy it is to sell something, and it can really put you down, I think, as well. So I think try and stay clear from that because it's never that easy. I might have got lucky with that, and it was 5-6 years ago. But you can learn everything. You don't have to pay for a course either. Never buy a course. Everything's on YouTube for free, pretty much. If you can be bothered to find it. Don't get me wrong. It might be nice having a step-by-step guide or a course, which is nice. But if you just type in the right things and find, someone says do this or do that, you can then go onto another YouTube video and search like in more depth of how to do it, and just learn from that and just go slowly.
Yeah, that's the problem. People collect these courses. I think people get addicted to like, oh, I've got a library of 500 ways that I can make £1 million, but I don't actually bother doing any of them. I just look for the next one, which is the easiest option to do that. So,
but now you have ChatGPT. You can probably just ask ChatGPT to walk you through to list of Amazon products, and they'll probably do it perfectly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the amount of listings on Amazon now that are just going to all be written by AI, full of like errors and like sizing mistakes and words. Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
I think the same. I think a bit of the same way with books. Especially in marketing and growth, when some people sometimes make like post on LinkedIn or Twitter like the 20 books or the 10 books that you should read or no. And I'm like, how do you have time to read a book? Like I'm just every day I'm just doing things, like when you I think when you spend more time trying to do things yourself, I don't think you have that much time to read that many books about other people doing things. I'd rather do them myself, just give me the summary or just like a 5 minutes YouTube videos and I'm good.
Exactly. I think the problem with any book like that, well, I think you can just bundle it into like self-help book, whether it's like cold start problem, whatever, you can just distill the interesting points down into just like one page of notes, but you're like, I got to read 200 pages of this thing just to get, it's like someone has an idea for a tip that they get is one sentence and they're like, right now I need to pad this out into like 52 chapters and all this bullshit at the start of it. So that's why I actually signed up for what's that app where it like minimizes the books for you? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I know of it. I can't remember the name.
Is it Curio?
No, that isn't the one I'm thinking of. They probably multiple ones that do the same. But yeah, it's like you choose the book and it just gives you like, it can even read it to you. It can even read you like the 10 takeaways, which is great. But the problem then is that you're just like, wicked, I'm going to go out for like a half an hour walk and I'm going to listen to the takeaways from 10 books. And you listen to them all. And then by the time you get home, you've just forgotten them all again. So at least me anyway, I feel like you have to learn.
No, it's true. It's true. And I think it ties up to, we're going on a tangent a little bit, but I did this post today on LinkedIn about something I read about nuances, or the equivalent of like the answer of it depends in marketing, when every question you just answer with like it depends because there's so many variables. And I think it ties up a little bit with this, because the more you learn or the smarter you become in a field, especially in marketing, especially in growth, the more your thinking can become too cluttered with parameters and variables, and you end up having like the analysis paralysis. But that gets even more accentuated when you're in a company setting and you talk to a whole team around the table that all have different level of knowledge, etc., you end up like never making any decisions. And if you apply that to, for example, a topic like attribution in marketing, good luck finding the right answer, because there's like so many, like things go up, things go down, things go sideways, and if you too tied up to finding the truth, you'll never make a decision again. So
yes, that's a good point. I think everyone bangs on about being data led, but I think data informed is the way forward. I don't think you can be, if you want to be data led, then you need to wait for like concrete outcomes of that data, and most of the time you're not going to get to that point. So you have to, there comes a point where you're like, this is what the data is kind of telling me, and I'm going to go with that, rather than this is what it says, and that is what I'm going to religiously do. If we kind of shift it forward a bit, though, so when me and you first met, as I said, we were at Bump, which was a streetwear marketplace. So apps that you started out selling streetwear on Depop, and then you obviously found out about Bump. Remind me how you made that jump, or how did you get the job at Bump?
Yeah, it's funny. It links completely to Depop. Because I was quite a big like Depop seller at the time. I remember Sam and Jack, who are our founders, they actually just messaged me through Facebook to basically join Bump's platform. And funny enough, that's basically what I ended up doing for Bump, like a scale. So yeah, Bump I sort of turned into a sort of, it was called head of supply, which isn't, I don't know if it's a complete real role, but in general, I was basically sort of responsible for acquiring and onboarding top sellers to the marketplace. So yeah, it was sort of very, very growth hackery actually. We sort of just made a team. We would reach out to sellers on Depop, Grailed, eBay, any sort of big seller, and we reach out to them, give them a short pitch of why they should join Bump, and set up their account. And we'd have a team who would list all their items from Depop or Grailed over onto their Bumps platform, which sometimes they'll have 300 items, which you can imagine a pain point of a seller coming over would be like, I don't want to sit there for like 4 or 5 hours and list all these items, especially when I'm not guaranteed any sales. But obviously when you did all that for them, there was no barrier to entry. So what ended up happening is some of them would start selling, some of them wouldn't, but some of them would start selling, and then they would go, oh, that's great, and then organically they would start to then list their items themselves, and the sort of the pinwheel or cycle would just begin from there. So yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, it was obviously the challenges of marketplace. We've all obviously worked at a marketplace now, and that chicken and egg challenge that you typically only get at a marketplace, where you need the sellers, but in order to get the sellers, you need the buyers. In order to get the buyers, you need the sellers. So I think it's like we've spoken about grey hat tactics in the past and like dodgy things that people do. I think in the world of marketplaces, every single marketplace has gone out there and like DM'd sellers on other marketplaces and said, come and join us, and done this, just like a whole cycle of all like poaching people off each other. But when I started at Bump, I was super impressed. I don't want to be like patronizing and like bring age into it, but I was like, this guy, Lewis, sorry, I'll call you Rory, but there was actually 2 really young guys doing amazing stuff there. But I was like, this guy Lewis is like leading this team that is pretty pivotal for the whole business, because if you think the average seller might be saying 3 things, you need to bring on those big guys that have the inventories of the 300-400 to actually serve the marketplace. So there's a super pivotal role, and I think you did an amazing job at that. When you went to Heygo, which was also a kind of marketplace, right? You had or maybe give us the kind of overview of what Heygo was for anyone that hadn't used it.
Yeah, so Heygo was a virtual travel platform with sort of a simple goal of making global travel accessible to anyone. They sort of started during COVID. As you can see, it's like perfect fitting. People can't access the world. How do they access it? Oh, Heygo. And it grew really, really quickly during the pandemic. And as we sort of came out of the pandemic, unfortunately, the growth stopped. So I guess I'm sure lots of companies saw that, like Zoom and all these other companies maybe seen the same sort of thing. But went from there as an SDR. Which was basically a sales role, but it was very, very similar to Bump actually, in fact, because the way it would work is I'll be in charge of onboarding new creators for our platform, which would then be consumed by all our users. So yeah, it'd be a case of reaching out to YouTube creators, Twitch creators, people who have a experience, or tour guides who have like experience in travel, invite them over, set them up, onboard them, and sort of give them all the advice they need to be successful on the platform.
Yeah, it's interesting. So the reason I linked into Hago, because I was going to say, was it a similar kind of thing? Because when you think about tour guides, effectively, it's like, where do they exist at the moment? But yeah, it makes sense that you can just, people that are putting content up on YouTube, Twitch, etc. That's really interesting. So a lot of basically transferable skills from Bump set you up for Hago, right?
For sure. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And their biggest, sorry, yeah, but one other thing, their biggest challenge was it retention, or was it the kind of tipping structure that was key?
Yeah, that was definitely a few things. You know, as I mentioned, they raised a decent amount of money during lockdown, and then coming out of lockdown after raising a large amount of money and with high expectations, it was kind of the wrong timing, and we grew so quickly. I think we grew from like, I think it was like 8 to 50 people in a space of like 3 or 4 months or so. And so when I joined, there was obviously, I was meant to be an SDR and for sales, and then ended up sort of going down more to the basics of growth and working out where we can find sort of PMF. But yeah, definitely retention was one of them. Like I didn't do any like performance ads or anything like that. But I know the CAC to LTV ratio was way off, and so we couldn't really scale any or use any of that money to scale paid acquisition, which was really difficult because there's no point chucking money down the drain. So we had a small budget for paid acquisition until we could work that out, which we couldn't do. And also I think the other thing was sort of this short form and long form content. This is through a transition of everyone turning to watch short form content, when ours was super long form content. It was moving around at the pace of going around a new city, moving around at a slow pace with a guide or a sort of one of our creators. And it's so difficult because obviously you're going through different patches of 4G, 3G, 5G, and so unless the person's patient behind the screen watching it, all of a sudden the audio could go, the quality of the stream could go, and so I think there was so much potential there. And it was such a special idea, and I think, but unfortunately, people moving on to short form content, not having the patience to watch content that isn't pitch perfect. You know how these days if someone goes on a website and it doesn't refresh within 1 or 2 seconds, they're already reloading the page or going on to the next page, or with a bit of content. If they can't hear the audio, you don't even bother trying to fix the audio. You probably just swipe down to the next piece of content. So there's that, but there's that, but there's a lot of potential there. But I think just the timing piece was probably
what made it different from not to go too much into that company, but just for me to understand, like, what made it different from someone doing a TikTok video, for example? What was the differentiator that you guys had watching a creator on your platform versus like on TikTok, for example?
Yeah, so firstly, it was obviously long form, so all the tours are around 30 to 40 minutes, 30 minutes to an hour long.
Okay.
It would always be moving, so the person would be moving with the content. So you would have a gimbal, which would have front facing, back facing, so you can move around with the person, and you would get between 20 and 1,000 people on a stream. And the great thing about it is, if you're going to a new city, you could ask the tour guide or the professional, a question in the box, and he can reply to you in real time. And the tipping model was all the monetization model was all tips. So we had
okay, I see.
Yeah, because it was all live, wasn't it? The tours were live.
So, all live. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. It's like, it's a real shame that it didn't work, because I just feel like it's definitely the kind of idea where it'll probably come again in another form and it will do really well. I know that when we spoke back when you were there, it was like there were some people that were spending significant you've always got like the whales, right? And there were some people that were just going on like multiple tours weekly and tipping, and I think a lot of people would have got a lot out of that, especially if you think about people that maybe can't physically like get out, and they can get that. You can watch a travel video on YouTube, but you don't get that live like one-to-one feedback, or say, oh, can you show me that again or this again. And I know you're doing some consulting now for Go Far and Tread Lightly, right?
Yeah, I'm an advisor, so you're not quite consulting. I do a few hours a month on some calls, just sort of helping them, like directing them with some of the growth stuff. Hopefully sort of pushing them in the right direction, shortcutting growth by sort of avoiding some mistakes we made at Hago, I guess you could say. Still a very, very early stage company, and so I think there'll probably be some more updates for that in the next few months.
That's cool. And is that a fairly similar kind of concept?
Yeah, nearly exactly the same. To be fair, I think the nice thing about it is obviously it was grow a lot slower and not have such high expectations, because they're not going to be raising tens of millions of pounds straight away, which is good, because I think it's a huge thing with startups that I think people raise too much money too quickly occasionally, and they have these huge goals, and the founders have such ambition to get there, but unfortunately they skip a lot of things, such as a simple thing like PMF. Like, do you actually have real PMF before raising all this money and scaling? So it's nice to go down to sort of the basics, find out exactly what we need to do, and then hopefully grow at a more scalable rate.
No, I agree. We went from a world of trying to get 30% month-on-month growth, like very aggressively every month, to being okay with like 5 to 10. And I think there's something nice about this, working in growth and marketing. What I wanted to say, which is quite interesting for those who are much younger than Jake and I, that want to get into marketing and growth, is like both times at Bump and Ego, you didn't necessarily have a growth title. Your entry point to growth was taking care of the supply or the demand, and both time was the supply, and doing the things that finding the skills to do the things that don't scale. Like you developed a skill set in being able to do that, doing outreach, onboarding people, whether they were sellers or creators, and that's very interesting, I think, because it doesn't necessarily always have to be ads or like it can be something more practical, more like almost like the ground zero of a business. How do you get your first 100 people on the platform?
For sure.
And how do you get your first 100 people on the platform is definitely not Facebook ads. Like, it's going to be like, outreach and finding where they are already and taking them from that place and bringing it to yours, especially if your product is good. So I think that's a great takeaway.
No, definitely. I feel like, for sure, like anyone who wants to get into marketing stuff, if you're going for a small stage startup, you're never really going to be signing up for what you think you're going to be doing. It's always you can be doing something completely different, and so it's fun. I personally, myself with work, I like to be changing projects, weekly or monthly, doing different things. That keeps you on your feet and keeps the job exciting, for sure.
Yeah. And did you find that when I guess I probably know the answer to this, right? But we said that when you were at school, you started like learning at marketing yourself, but then your route into Bump was mostly through your experience of being a seller on a marketplace yourself. So not necessarily that you went there and said, "Look, I'm fresh out of school or uni, whatever," and but I've done like some marketing in the past, so there's a different route in. But do you think if you're a young person right now, just getting experience on just like coming up with a side hustle and learning these things yourself, so when you can go to those first job interviews, rather than just saying, here's my empty CV, it's like, here's my CV of things that I've done myself, showing that I've got entrepreneurial spirit, showing that I have just gone out there and learned this stuff myself. Do you think that's valuable for kind of anyone that's in education right now?
Yeah, definitely. I think setting up a side hustle, like, it doesn't have to grow or be huge. Like, you learn so much just from setting up a business. Learn on YouTube videos. You need to stack skills. Just go on YouTube, learn the basics of SEO, learn the basics of paid ads. Like, sometimes people think paid ads can be extremely confusing. Don't get me wrong. I sometimes dive into SEO or paid ads and think, oh god, I know absolutely nothing. But everyone can learn the basics pretty quickly. And I think for a lot of young people as well, like, just reach out to these companies, like, engage with them, follow them on LinkedIn, engage with some of the employees who work there in the same sort of industry as you. Reach out to them, ask if they need a hand with anything, like, send them something interesting. Like, but if you're going through the standard process of hiring, there's hundreds of applicants, and so I think just message around. People are so happy to jump on a call as well. Like, jump on a call with some of these people and ask for a little bit of advice. And then the last thing, like, get off Instagram and stop following these like lifestyle hackers, and follow really great newsletters. Like, you guys have a great newsletter now and a great podcast. And there's definitely some other really great influential people who do some great bit of content on LinkedIn stuff, which is so helpful and really would really help you sort of push forward.
Yeah, I love that. I think the get off of LinkedIn, the get off of Instagram tip is a big one, right? Everyone's addicted to
Yeah.
social media right now, and it's so easy to, I say it's unfair to like waste your time because people get a buzz, you get a buzz out of like looking at social media, right? But the
Yeah.
time, even if you just say like on Tuesday nights, I'm going to watch some YouTube content on like something interesting, or on Tuesday, I'm going to like message someone on LinkedIn. Um, as you were saying that, I was like, if you want to get into marketing, just like start your own marketing podcast as someone in school, and then just message someone on LinkedIn and say, "Hey, I'm starting a marketing podcast. You want to come and chat?" Because everyone wants to go on marketing podcast.
Yeah.
So that's a really interesting way of just like meeting people. When
That's cool.
when I a long time ago now, before the company where I met Johan, Glow, I found the job on Working Startups, which is still a legit website to find startup jobs, and I applied, and then I saw that they were also going to Silicon Milk Roundabout, which is a startup job fair in London, and I went there with the sole purpose of just like finding. I knew that they were going to be exhibiting there, like finding them like 3 days after I'd applied and talking to the founder. So I went there, yeah, and I found Damo, who's the CEO of Glow. And as I went up, started chatting to him, I was like, oh, "Hey, I applied for this job yesterday," and then he remembered because I'd sent this like super fancy CV that was all like fucking like designed with all this crazy shit over it, trying to make up for the fact that I didn't really have much experience. And I think that that did really well because he was like, "Oh, this guy's like made the effort to come and talk to me," and he hadn't seen any of the other applicants' faces, so that worked out well. So yeah, I think that's a great tip. But we actually had someone apply, or it wasn't even a job; they just sent in a prospecting to Hex the other day, just a box of donuts that said, can't remember if they said something on them, but it was basically like a box of donuts with their CV attached, just saying like, "I'd be interested to chat about UX vacancies." Everyone fucking loved that, and he did get a chat, and he is on our books for that. So all that stuff is definitely worth doing.
That's cool.
What I would say to this is that thing that can work, and that definitely worked for us. It seems that I need to tell a little bit of my story as well, but I think it's a little bit like relationships and flirting. Don't be weird. If you don't like if you don't get an answer, just move on. Just try to talk to someone else, because it can get awkward very quickly if you reach out as a young person to like a ton of people and really be too insistent. But it's at the same time, it's so easy to differentiate yourself by doing that I definitely recommend it as well. Like I'm not saying not to do it. You should definitely do it. But the way I didn't know that's how you got the job, Jake. The way I got into Glow was I saw Lori's a post of a job opening from Lori on Facebook, not even on a job board or LinkedIn, or he just posted it on his personal Facebook, and it wasn't easy to get the job though, but that was an unusual way to find out about a job. And then I had to I think I interviewed like 6 times because they were like, who is this like 6'4", 26-year-old guy who's already like an engineer, who's already got a career? Like, why does this guy want to get into Facebook ads? so at that time I had to differentiate myself and show that I was fit for learning for during all that time of the interviews and stuff. I literally did what you just said, Jake. I set some time every evening. I was basically learning a whole new field that I didn't know about through YouTube, whatever blog articles I could find from that time, and being able to talk about a subject that I had no clue what it was. And eventually it worked, but it took some time. But it wasn't easy, but it was unusual for sure.
So moving on to your like 50-second business, Lewis, or whatever it is, but obviously we can't skip over boarding bites, right?
Boarding bite, of course. That was actually, so I started actually during COVID. So Boarding Bites, for anyone out there, is basically a snack box subscription service tailored for boarding school students in the UK. So super, super niche business there. It's actually still running. It's still very, very small. So I've got around 50 or 60 subscriptions. So it's still sort of like ticking over. But yeah, that it's unfortunately I'm not really working on it too much anymore. I guess I could say I've sort of fallen out, like fallen out a little bit with it, like love wise. When I first built it, like 3 years ago, sort of during like just before COVID, spent so much time and energy building it up and sort of launched it, and it did really well. So it was getting like sort of 40 or 50 subscriptions a month. For like 2 or 3 months, and then COVID came down and shut down all the schools completely. And obviously, over that 1.5 year period of schools being open and shut, people didn't want to sign up for or commit to a subscription. And then, sort of at the end of that, I got my job. I got my job at Hago. So it was again, it was an amazing experience. Like, learned so much from it. I love subscriptions. I think it's so cool and such a great way to scale a business. And obviously learn a lot about like email marketing, built the website, how to like handle and manage subscriptions. You learn sort of about your like lifetime value and retention, which is also so important for a lot of tech companies nowadays who are on like sort of a SaaS model. So yeah, it's been fun. So we'll see how that goes. Might be looking for a buyer.
Might pick up again. And what was the box about? What was inside the box? Is it snacks or?
Yeah, so it's another really hard thing about this. So we basically send snacks. We just do one box now, but before we had 3 different types of boxes, and it would be filled with snacks like, you know, candy kittens, different types of crisps and popcorn and drinks, and like pot noodle, like those
Nice.
like instant noodle kind of things. And it's great, but you know, something I've learned is the markup on food is terrible, like absolutely terrible. Really, really difficult. Like, and obviously the fulfillment of it, like to try and get a fulfillment center to fulfill those items when they're changing each month or each week. And there's 15 things to pack in a box. All of a sudden, your fulfillment goes for like a £1 pick and pack fee, all the way up to like £7 or £8, and it's not really scalable, which is difficult. But yeah, we'll see how that one goes.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea.
So it sounds like COVID has been harsher on you it's than most people, with impacting multiple things you were doing.
Yeah, it's a difficult one for sure.
So would you say you're a D2C kind of guy? That seems like a common theme through all of your ventures. And
yeah, I think so. I think there's so many challenges. There's so many challenges with both of them, but there's so many challenges with D2C. And obviously now, you know, going into Our Guilty Pleasures again, D2C brand. There's just so much competition, and you have to really stand out. And you know, with paid ads going like spend going like through the roof, you need to have like all your conversion rates, and your product needs to be really, really good. But yeah, like I think I'm probably gonna be looking for a role sort of in the next coming months, and you know, I would love to get my hand stuck into it, like a D2C brand, in a sort of a growth role, to learn more, and sort of see how they do it in sort of some of the bigger companies.
Yeah, that's cool. Question for both of you guys, think startups is a good place to go, kind of fresh out of school, fresh out of uni, as a first career?
Yeah, I would personally say it's super exciting. I think being a young person, like I know you guys are still in the kind of startup industry anyway, but like being a young person with not so many responsibilities, such as like kids or like an expensive mortgage or something like that. Obviously, startups are so vulnerable. Like I've exited. I've been out of 2 of them. You know, I've heard people who join for 6 months and then, you know, get let go a month later. So it's, you know, it's exciting. But you do get chucked around a little bit. But I think you learn lots, and you're in a very high, like fast-paced environment. So so it's fun in that regard.
Yeah, I'm with you. So definitely startups. I mean, we're still deep in startups. I guess the difference now, like you said, is we do have kids. I do have 2 kids. Do have mortgage. But I think if you build a nice moat around your career, you can stay in startups and be okay, and just move around as it goes and when you need to. So I guess that's what makes me think it's still fine to be in startups. But to start, definitely startups. I think it's way more exciting. You get way more responsibilities. You'll get chances to shine more and to work more if you want to. this thing, about like talking about work-life balance and things like that. I think it's a bit of a false term. If you like what you're doing, just do it, and when you want to take a break. But I feel like startups give you that as well, the flexibility of doing what you want when you want it. But yeah, definitely startups in comparison to like a big company. I wouldn't even think twice when it comes to starting. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and significantly easier to penetrate as well with like no experience.
Yeah,
If I just find something that they take, it's a manual, boring process for them, like
exactly.
building their LinkedIn following. Just be like, I'll follow 200 people a day, and I'll reply to comments, and just get your foot in the door. And
definitely. And you said something earlier, Lewis, that was very true, and I don't think it's talked about very much. Is that you can do so many things. Oh, he's gonna come back. I hope all recordings will be okay.
Yeah, I think they will be. You guys have both had some bad connections.
Yes, I think the heat is melting the internet in the UK right now. So what was I saying? There's something that is not being talked about very often, but that Louis said earlier, which is you can have a side project, either building a side hustle, flipping clothes, creating content on TikTok, trying to build a following. You don't have to be successful. I think that's the point that I really liked about what you said earlier, is that it's not to show that you want to do it is enough. It doesn't have to be a success. Like very few people at 18, 19, 20 would have a successful side hustle. The fact that they're doing it is the proof that they want it, that they want something out of this project, and that they have the motivation to go the extra mile where everyone else is just buying courses or just talking about it. So I think that's a great point.
Yeah, I think so. It was something that Sebu was talking about when we spoke to him a couple of weeks ago. Like the kids that are starting clipping agencies, or just saying that I'll clip your content for you. There's so many things as a young person that you're just like in the culture that even as much as you try to like hang on to that, it's very difficult. And as much as you might be like a mid-30s like me and think that you still are kind of up on certain things, which I like to think I am, so than a lot of people I know, but there's certain things that you're just only in on if you're young. And I think that use that as like your superpower. You can go to a founder that's like in their 30s and say, I know all this shit that you basically don't know what's going on in the culture right now, and I can make you guys relevant. And I think it would be stupid to not listen to somebody saying that.
Yeah.
So the last venture, or not the last venture, but your most recent venture, is a really interesting one, because it comes with it's obviously a really interesting niche. Oh, I wouldn't even say niche, right? It's a huge industry, but it's a very interesting industry, the sex toys industry. But it comes from a marketing perspective with like lots of restrictions.
Yeah.
So it's the same as like CBD brands and things. There's restrictions on doing that. I mean, you can tell us about what some of those restrictions are. But when we were chatting a few weeks ago, I loved some of the ideas that you have around how you're using TikTok to get past that stuff. So, do you want to give us an intro on that?
Yeah, for sure. So the recent ventures, a company called Our Guilty Pleasures, basically a sex toy company in the UK. So we got a new website. I'm spending sort of the last 4 months doing that. It's been some really big challenges. Obviously with like paid ads restrictions, having to be really careful on social media with what you say and what you don't say. It's been really exciting, and again learned a lot more. Like I started actually up with my girlfriend, her name's Sophie, and we've been splitting up the work. We basically have to focus all on organic channels, so that's content writing, SEO, and then obviously all our social media. So one of the main things we invested in over the last 4 months is street interviews. So like we've posted probably 120, 130 street interviews across our social channels. And it's so hard because we've had a few that have gone completely viral, but we've had to take down the content just because obviously the nature of what the person said. He got this poor bloke, I think, in the streets of Soho, said something he wishes he didn't, and I think over 3 million people saw what he said, and he got called into his office. He did a great job because it was all about breaking down taboos. Breaking down taboos in bed as like a guilty pleasure, which was funny. But we're not dickheads, so we're going to take it down and not wreck someone's life. So we did that, which was a great shame. But yeah, like even the challenges come with that. Like you spend so much time, going out filming the videos, editing the videos, creating captions videos, and posting them. And we've done this for like 3 months now, and I'll say openly that our TikTok's only got 320 followers. Which is nothing. Our Instagram's at like 5,500 followers, which is great, but it's you got to be consistent and persistent. And we're at this moment now where we're like, oh my god, this is taking so much of our time and energy, and we're not really getting too far with it. But at that point is when you got to tell yourself, no, you got to keep going. And you guys say with your podcast, I don't know what the stats. I think you guys said that like only 20% of people get past their fifth episode or something along the lines of that. I don't know if you guys can correct me on that.
It's something.
Yeah, but it just need to be consistent with that and persistent with it. So we're gonna keep nailing through those, and also with the SEO as well. Like we have over 850 products on our website. So thankfully we got ChatGPT, so that was sort of creating descriptions and meta titles and meta descriptions for every single one of them, and optimizing every single page. Which has been a huge amount of work, and now it's just going to be a case of fine tuning and backlink building. I actually learned a lot from the last episode with your.
Really?
Yeah. He said some great things about the digital PR stuff, which is great.
That's good.
Nice.
That's good.
That's good to hear.
So the restrictions: can you not run any ad to do with like any sex toy, or is it just certain words that you can't say?
Yeah, so there's a company called Roam, and you're allowed to. Firstly, you're allowed to promote sexual wellness. So things like condoms, erectile dysfunctional pills, you're allowed to do. And actually, I think there's a company called Roam who do condoms. Quite a new startup. I think they're doing quite well now. But they do actually sell sex toys. But obviously, the way they funnel visitors in to their website is through condom adverts. Which is a shame. Like, there's so many big. I can imagine Love Honey, Sinful, these big competitors. That there's lots of lawsuits I think going out to try and get these restrictions down. And really? What a day that'll be! What a day that'll be if it does happen.
What a day!
Like all the marketers going mad trying to get these adverts out. And that's kind of what I'm hoping for a little bit. You have all the setup ready, and then all the
drop shippers as well. All the drop shippers waiting. Yeah.
Because it would be, and I think and with the industry, there's a lot of competition with those. Love Honey being huge, but again, there's so many of the brands that do shut down after a year, or less even, because it's just so hard to scale. And obviously, being like organic and SEO driven, they're very long term bets, which can take years before really kicking in.
So there is no way you can run ads at all, even by doing some sort of, I'm going to use like a silly example, but I think there was a brand, I don't know if it was Rome or someone else that was using like a banana, in a way that you know what it is, but it's a banana on an ad. And it's like, okay, maybe their way of going around the restriction. Is that not even possible?
So if it's linking to your website, which sells products which promote pleasure, then no. But I'm sure there are smacky ways. You could get a landing page, promote a newsletter or like a
quiz
giveaway,
or something.
I guess you could say. Yeah, and then you use that newsletter or those email sign-ups to then promote. But that it's quite, your conversion rate's going to be really high up there in order to pay for an email sign-up and then get the conversion. And being bootstrapped at the moment, it's not something.
Yeah.
I haven't really got the budget to run ads at the moment.
Have you tried? That got me thinking of another tactic that maybe you thought about. In France, there's this company that sells underwear for women when they have their period, so a very specific time of the month. And the way they scaled is they gave one for free. So not using ads too much, but when they get someone into the website, you get the first one for free. And I think you can give one to someone else or something like that. So obviously they figured out a way to get the first product so cheap and have the margin in a way that they can afford to give one for free and then convert enough people to then make the money back.
That's cool.
Something like that.
Interesting. Like upselling. A T-shirt like "I support sex toys," and then everyone that buys that, you market to them and you upsell them on your other stuff. But it's mad, right? That it's in 2023 and you can't advertise sex toys, but you can advertise the shit I see coming through from like Shein. It's like GIMP masks and like I mean, to be honest, even some of the ads from ASOS these days, it's basically like a topless woman in my newsfeed. It's like, how are they getting away with that stuff?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
I would. One thing we'd love to do is I really want to get. If you go to countries like Italy, they basically have vending machines selling sex toys, which is really interesting. It's meant to be like, you know, it's in public, it's placed in public, people can see it, and that's something which is missing in London. Because the whole point is that we want to break down like the taboo of using a sex toy or talking about it, you know, which a lot of people are very quiet about, which is fine. But I think, you know, a great bit of guerrilla marketing would be, you know, putting a big sex toy vending machine in the center of London and really seeing how people react, and you know, I'm not sure how long it would last before being taken down. They're very hot and things like that, but I think that's something I might have to look on eBay and sort of brand out a vending machine for it and give it a go, because I think that could go viral.
That's wicked. I love that.
It's very cool to see, and there's something that we spoke about in a few episodes multiple times in the past, that nowadays you can, I think it's even easier for a couple to just the two of you bootstrap a company and do all the things that you mentioned in the last 5 minutes. Just the two of you is very impressive, and using AI to help you with copy and SEO and like finding ways to like automate some of those processes. It's still a lot of work, obviously, and you know, like you said, like you might in the meantime you might need to like look for a role on the side, like part-time or whatever, you know, to like to be able to do it. But it's very impressive, very, very impressive.
Well, hey, look, I you know, I'm gonna say it's been really risky, to be honest with you. Like, you know, I'm very fortunate enough to have the last sort of like 4 or 5 months where we can support ourselves. You know, leaving Hago, we got given a pretty generous like severance package, and so we used that. We sort of counted our pennies on a spreadsheet and just like set us up for like 4 or 5 months, because, you know, those first 4 or 5 months setting all the website up and getting all those products and everything, it takes a lot of work and would be really difficult to manage on, you know, with a full-time job. But now we've got the basics up, and, you know, we focus on a few growth channels and have a few daily tasks that might take us, you know, half an hour, an hour. Then, you know, that's something now going into a full-time role I can manage.
I had a couple of questions actually on like tactics and channels. The first one is, you mentioned TikTok and street interviews, and I was obsessed with street interviews last year because when I started at Nude, nothing to do with sex toys, but the name is relevant, I guess. I noticed in fintech no one was doing straight interviews, but I was seeing them on TikTok a lot for other like random creators or whatever topic, and we started doing them for finances. Now everyone's doing them, so it was funny to see. But I think they still work very well, and for us they worked also very well to convert people into customers, and we were getting views. Like quite a few of them got at least 1 million views, and then we used them as like, you know, spark ads, and then some of them have like, you know, 5-6 million views now. One of them we had to take down as well because the guy was wearing, I don't know, it was wearing like it was a guy from Essex that was wearing like a belt or something, like, and everyone was commenting on the belt, and it was like he found us on Instagram, and it was like, guys, can you take it down because I'm being roasted here? And it's like people are recognizing me on the street and stuff. And I was like, I'm sorry, mate. But what my question was, did you the followers they don't matter on TikTok? Like you said, you have got like 300 followers, but if you're still managing to get hundreds of thousands or millions of views in some of your videos, does that convert into sales? Like, can you see that, or is it still tricky?
Yeah, you know what? It's a great question. I think I think it's a great thing for everyone to hear as well. Openly, like getting millions of views does not equal sales by any means at all. Like the point of our content for that was like it's meant to be entertaining. It's meant to break down these stigmas and hopefully gain some traction for the followers and for the followers really. So it's really like to generate as many followers as you can, and then you basically need to after that, you then need to create content that will convert those followers. So you need to educate them, you need to sell those items, and that's something we're getting into now. Like if you go on our Instagram page, it's not very product focused at the moment. It's very like we've got some good memes, got great street interviews, we've got a few educational pieces on how to do certain things or things people would like to know about. But yeah, so like now moving forward, it's going to be more about like optimizing that content in order to convert into sales, which is like the next step. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I heard the sales sometimes happen when you do like a really nice follow-up videos of a videos that went viral. Like the one right after is one that that is a bit more product driven. That's cool. I need to check it out. And the other channel I had in mind, and I have no idea of what the landscape looks like, but similarly to this, like maybe there is a way to get interesting discussions on podcasts, for example, to get the word out there. And if especially if it's still very taboo and there is not that many much content about the subject, maybe there's something
definitely
for you guys.
Yeah, actually, as we speak, actually, my co-founder, my girlfriend, she's actually on a podcast, so we're actually both doing podcasts at the exact same time right now. So
amazing.
So that's something we are looking at doing for sure. Yeah, and
that's wicked.
Hopefully get more of.
Contrary to what you guys have just said there, but when a couple of years ago I came across this brand when I was working elsewhere, they're called Pup Ring, PUPRING, and it's basically just a ring, like a ring for your finger, and you get it custom engraved with like your dog's name, or your pet's name, and their whole business was based on the back of basically two guys in a dorm room, and they bought like a laser engraver, and they just made these rings one at a time, and they would put them on TikTok, and they would just make the shittest TikTok posts, like with the like the robot voice over the top and just really bad. But they would pump them out. They'd like make 20 a day, like the process, like here's me making a ring, really bad thing. And like every 3 months or so, one of them would just explode and get them like 4 million views. And every time that happened, all of their stock sold out. Really, and they basically told me that all they needed to do was just have one viral video every 6 months, and they're just making shitloads of money. That's crazy. It's unbelievable. But it's different when it's one product and it's a low price product.
For sure. No, it's the way to do it. Like one of the biggest challenges currently facing, because we don't actually stock any of our brands. We stock other brands. We don't stock any of our own products. We stock other brands. And the hard thing was that is I'm not going to spend time marketing someone else's brand. So because it's very, very costly, and at the end of the day, they're buying it cheaper. They have a website selling the product. So it's to the next step for us. Actually, we're actually creating our own product now at the moment, which is basically going to be like a card game built for couples. And I'm actually going to launch that back on Amazon. So hopefully I'll have the same success. Let's see. We'll be basically creating content out of the cards, since it's super simple to do, and you can create a machine out of it, a bit like the pup rings you're speaking about.
Yeah, exactly. That's wicked. Well, that is probably a good point to wrap it up, because we've hit the hour mark. I know I missold you on this, Lewis, and I told you it would do half an hour, and now we've tricked you into doing a full hour with us.
That's been great. It's been fun.
It was awesome. Thank you for sharing all of that. That was really very insightful. Thanks, Lewis.
Super insightful. You deserve success, man. So just keep it up. We're gonna.
It's gonna keep. I'm just gonna keep I say I've done all these things like openly. Like I haven't made millions of pounds or hundreds of thousands of pounds doing it. It's all gonna hopefully come in time. So it's like it's good for everyone to understand out there. Yeah.
Yeah, go on.
No,
Go on, what were you saying?
I've said it again and again, but like, I hate, you see all these Instagram reels and YouTube videos of people making 50K a day drop shipping, all this rubbish. And like, I'm sure there are a few people doing it, but like, it's good to switch those things off, and everyone's got their own journey and path to success. So
of course,
just gotta keep fighting.
Of course. And man, you're 24. Like when you started recapping at the beginning, when you started talking about what you've done and stuff, and I was like, man, when we spoke, you were like 19, 20. I was like,
yeah. A little background on that. I actually got interviewed by Johan at Depop, and he didn't give me the job, so I'm still pretty disappointed.
Oh man,
still crying inside, Johan. 4 or 5 years later.
I thought you were not going to bring this up, but man, we'll finish the episode on that note.
You can get revenge, Lewis, because in a few years he'll be like coming to you applying for a job, and you'll just be like, "Fuck you."
Yeah. Please
he'll be moving on to he'll be trying to work for his third unicorn by that time.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Nice one, man. Thank you so much. It's been so good.
Bye.
Speak soon. Cheers, dude.
He's such a nice guy. I remember when we spoke, I had the same sentiment. I was like, boy, does he do a lot. Like, he does a lot. And he's so young.
A hell of a lot, yeah.
And I didn't even remember that it was an interview. I thought when we spoke, it was just a meeting, but apparently it was an interview.
I think it was when he was looking for something, and I introduced him to. I introduced you both.
I don't remember why.
Otherwise he would have just been sitting he would have just been sat at Depop doing Depop stuff, and he wouldn't have done half of the interesting stuff that he's done.
Exactly. He's a very impressive guy.
Well, that was the most hacked together episode yet.
It was
arranged 5 minutes in advance.
Exactly, and also the hottest and sweatiest
I'm
episode
absolutely
ever.
boiling.
I'm liquid in my t-shirt, and can't wait to get into a shower or something. All right.
Very nice.
Well, we spoke about sex toys, nude, shower naked.
You gotta go cool off.
Yeah, let's cool off. It's too hot. Hot episode.